Hey, Pat McCardle back for another episode of Shop Talk, where today we're celebrating 40 years of Polaris ATVs with the model year 26 lineup. Stay tuned for more. So for model year 26, we've got a host of models across the ATV lineup, including this awesome 40th anniversary ATV to really celebrate Polaris being in the game for 4 decades. You know, as you look, there's a lot of industry firsts that have come out from Polaris, and we've got an older model sitting in the studio today to kind of showcase some of the goodness there. This is an early Sportsman 500, one of the first 4-strokes in our lineup, and it really celebrates a lot of industry firsts and Polaris firsts, frankly. So things like single lever braking, right? It was a little easier to use than having to modulate both. One lever operates all 4 wheels. You know, we've got full floorboards on this model. We've got an automatic variable transmission on this. We've got the McPherson strut front end. We've got all-wheel drive built in. You know, it's single lever throttle, you know, pretty simple to operate compared to maybe some of the other models at the time. All right, so the other thing you see in the back here is independent rear suspension. This is another Polaris first back in these old Sportsman models. And what you see is dual A-arms, so it wasn't just a solid straight axle in the back. It allowed the 2 wheels to independently move up and down, made for a way more comfortable ride. And that's only gotten better over the years on the newer models. Now, fast forward about 3 decades and you get the new Sportsman of today. And this 570 has taken it up a notch in many areas. So you think about things like all-wheel drive operation, right? We went from outboard hubs on the old model to a centralized diff on this one. A little simpler, a little more robust, easier to deal with, better failure modes, frankly. As we come back in the machine, you know, you got some things like, you know, the racks that you can see here. Obviously, we got front and rear versus rear only on the older. You know, built-in brush guard, right? Got a nice bumper here. Built-in factory winch on some of these models. You know, this particular 40th anniversary has a lot of goodness to it. You know, we've got a better gauging and displays. We've got better headlights on these models. You know, they're a bit more comfortable. The floorboards are more ergonomic. All right, so we've carried that independent rear suspension all the way through to these latest generation models in model year 26. You can see we've got the lower arm, the upper arm, the stab bar, and the shocks in the back. Great ride quality, makes for good durability, and overall keeps you refreshed on the trail as you ride throughout the day. All right, so if you want to know more about any of the features or benefits of this vehicle, we did do a Sportsman 101 episode in the past, so make sure you reference back to that. Now, the other cool thing that I really want to highlight is, yes, both of these models in the shop are green, but on this 40th anniversary model, this is actually a painted metallic flake. You might not be able to see it on camera, but in real life, when you get this out on the sun, it really does pop with all that flake in the paint. Now you can see we've got this awesome 40th anniversary badge. This is really celebrating 40 years of ATV for Polaris. When you look at the side though, we did go back to the early Sportsman era, right? So we've got kind of the gold on green 2-tone action going here. You know, we've got the triple stripes here on the side panel with the 40th anniversary called out. And when you look at this model from the 90s, you see a lot of that stuff, right? Similar shape up on the graphics here, kind of gold on green. You know, we've got the 3 vents in the side panel. So we really tried to give a throwback to the early Sportsman with this 40th anniversary. Overall, this is a hot machine, going to be one you're going to want to pick up, and only built in model year 26. All right, so clearly we switched up the units in here so you could see some of the rest of the model year 26 lineup. First model we want to talk about is this Sportsman 570 Touring. So when you want to get somebody else on the unit with you, this one's super comfy, right? Comes in with this back seat so you can add a passenger to the back of this rig. Same color combo as we showed you on that 40th anniversary with the tree line green metallic. So beautiful paint scheme. It's got that flake in it. When you get it outside, you'll really see it. Now this thing comes with a lot of the features that we introduced in model year 25, but a couple that I want to remind you guys of that have actually translated down to the 1-up models as well is I've got some bushings hiding here in this front storage box. So we're actually switching to this style kind of across the board on the 450s and 570s. So you can see we've got O-rings, we've got the bushings, center sleeve, and if you look in the tube, you'll actually see that there's a step down on the inside where the old one was a smooth bore all the way through, and this pipe is really the part of the control arm that this pivots about. So big upgrade here for model year 26 across the 450 and 570 lineup. The other thing we want to talk about is accessories. So if you look, we've actually got this brand new storage box that not only fits the Touring model, but it fits the 1-ups as well. So if you look, the cool thing is here, even with the rear seat installed, you know, you can get this thing on. There's 4 lock and ride anchors. That if I open this up, you know, makes it really easy where you can just snap those down after you get it in there. And once you get all 4 of them, You got yourself a beautiful cargo box in the back of this, so it makes it super easy where you can still have a passenger. You know, this is big enough that you can actually fit 2 helmets in it, so you know, you can always bring your safety gear with you. And if you want to put that away while you're stopping on a lunch break or grabbing a bite to eat, you've got a spot to be able to put that. So this brand new rear cargo box fits a lot of our Sportsman models, but not 100% of them. So be sure you check the website or the accessory catalog for exact fitment to make sure this will fit your model. All right, so sticking with the theme of new colors for model year 26, this Scrambler XP 1000S actually comes in a brand new color called Matte Cascades Green. You can see it sitting here in the shop today. It's a really nice matte finish. It's got a bit of blue mixed in with the green, so it's a unique, novel color. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Scrambler, this S version actually is 55 inches wide. So great for wide open areas, places where you've got big whoops, you know, ruts, things of that nature, because that extra width actually gives us more ground clearance and more suspension travel. So the Scrambler models come in both a narrower, you know, 48-inch wide as well as the S at 55. So there's a Scrambler that works kind of in any part of the world you might live. All right, so as we move on to some of the special edition models, we've got some that are way more purpose-built, including the Mutter that we're standing here next to now. Now, when you look from a color scheme for 26, we've got Indy Red Pearl up front with Onyx Black in the back skirts. Now, for those of you who have never seen one of these or unfamiliar with these models, they're really purpose-built for mud riding. You know, you got things like a grab handle up here that harkens to some of our mountain snowmobiles. So this is some pretty cool tech that gives you some alternate hand placements if you ever need them for being able to, you know, lean a little bit more to the side on your machine if you get off camber down in a mud hole. This entire top area is way different. You've got high mounted intakes up here for the clutch and engine as well as clutch out. And we've got a high mounted radiator with dual cooling fans on the side to keep that radiator up out of the mud. Because we all know that when you got heat, you got mud, that really turns into a brick, and bricks and radiators don't get along. When you come up to the front, you've got a high mounted winch up on this bumper and it, you know, kind of a mud specific bumper. Nice part here is you don't have to reach your hand way down to be able to get that hook if you ever get stuck or need to help extract somebody. So a lot of cool features on this mud model, including the 30-inch Mud XT tires that are really unique to this particular model of ATV. All right, so we took you through a lot of the new colors and graphics for model year 26 and the breadth of lineup that we have in Polaris ATV land, right? Started out with that 40th anniversary Sportsman, kind of comparing against some of the industry firsts that we showed you from that 90s Sportsman 500. Took you through the Touring if you want to ride 2-up. We showed off the Scrambler XP 1000S for kind of those more sport-oriented riders. Finished it off talking about the XP 1000 Mutter. Overall, we've got a Sportsman for everybody in the lineup, so be sure you go through the website or your local dealer and figure out which one suits you best. Hey, that's it for this episode of Shop Talk. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you want to see next time.